Welcome to Flowering Creativity. This is the podcast where we explore the lives of creative people and provide practical tips for helping you to achieve and sustain your creative lifestyle and goals. Due to some really creative comments, we're going to shift gears this month for our February 2020 podcast, and my lovely wife Rebecca will be hosting. And this month, I get to sit in the hot seat.
The highlights of Matthew Campbell's formative years are trips for musical performance. Matthew has performed on stages all over the globe with several different musical groups, including Glasgow and Edinburgh, Scotland, Melbourne, Australia, Montreal, Canada, Orlando, Florida, Pittsburgh, PA, Washington, D.C., and New York City. Settling down a bit, Matthew started a family and business teaching music lessons, while also performing live music solo and for local bands. He is an aspiring songwriter with a rock opera, A Human Experience, and more under his belt. In 2020, in response to COVID, he founded this podcast. You can find his covers, originals, reactions, and more at Matthew's Music Lesson Studio on YouTube. Let's take a listen to a sampling of Matthew Campbell's genre-bending music.
Hello and welcome to Matthew's Music Lesson Studio. Crashing down of hollow years. The whole world's on lockdown. The economy's crashing and burning to the ground. Everyone's afraid of getting sick. My feelings have got the best of me. I'm panicking and I need a drink. Possessed by insanity, how on earth am I supposed to think? Without you in my life, I'm lonely and scared. Losing you would be my worst nightmare. As my heart pours out this song aloud, please stay to the end. The only request that I have for you, stay to the end. I could never abandon you, my friend, my love I send. You can make all my dreams come true, stay
to the end. As my heart pours out this song aloud, please stay to the end.
Let's have a conscious revolution, spiritual solution to mind pollution, continue evolution with a conscious revolution, spiritual solution to mind pollution, continue evolution, conscious revolution, spiritual solution to mind pollution, continue evolution with a conscious revolution, spiritual solution to mind pollution, continue evolution with a conscious revolution. Conscious revolution. Conscious revolution. Conscious revolution.
Okay, Matthew, in your own words, how would you describe your work and how do you use creativity in your work?
Well, my work mainly consists of three very important things. First is performing. I started performing very, very young, and performing comes from my heart. It helps me to get in the zone. Like, once a performance starts, like, the rest of the world falls away, and I just get to enjoy that moment of performance. Songwriting was the second that followed very, very, very closely. Taking the music and using creativity in order to come up with my own music was a natural progression, and I would, of course, perform some of that of my own music as much as I could, weave it into the shows. And then third is teaching, and not that teaching is third last. It's just was the newest thing that I really started to get into in my 20s, and ever since I've really found a passion for teaching when I can help somebody to glean even a tiny little bit of what it is that I'm trying to show them, to be creative themselves, or to help them get out of their shell and, share their art and their creativity with others. And that's why I founded this podcast, is to talk to other people who are creative like myself in order to help to keep myself creative during this crazy pandemic, and at the same time to maybe help a few of you guys to, be and stay creative during this insane period of all of our collective lives.
Insane it is. So do you have a daily routine? And if so, what and how do you feel it helps you in your work?
The most important thing to me daily is to get outside, take some deep breaths, get my body moving, get my heart rate up a little bit. I love to jog. I love to take walks, especially hiking in nature. I love to ride my bicycle places. I actually prefer not to drive a car if at all possible, and that's putting it nicely. Especially in the last 2 years, I have driven extremely minimally, and it makes me happier to travel lighter with my bicycle and move my body and get outside. And, it helps me because I feel like I'm just not the same person when I don't get my exercise, when I don't get my prana outside, I don't get, that fresh air, that stimulation of nature, that changing scenery, right? Things start to get stale. I start to get, more frustrated easier by smaller things, etc., a shorter fuse, you could say. And so the daily routine really helps me to, try to be more present and grounded in my life and just enjoy life more.
Nice. That's great. So what challenges have you faced, or do you face, that have disrupted your creative flow?
I'm living in a very tight space right now, and it's a very tiny house, shall we say, with 3 other individuals. And so one thing that really limits me is schedule. Like, I have my recording periods during the week that I have to take advantage of, literally a couple of 2 to maybe 3 hour windows per week. And other than that, I'm doing a lot of stuff at home, which is important, and maintaining the house and keeping things clean and cooking and things. And so my main challenge is to take and harness that time when I have it and get the most out of it, because I can't expect, say, on the weekend to, have everybody be quiet for an hour so I can record myself singing and playing guitar, to this GoPro or whatever.
Very good. Very nice. How has the pandemic situation affected you and your work?
My work was just restarting anew. We had just appeared from a vacation of a lifetime in a motorhome in Portland, Oregon, at the end of 2019, and my family was just putting down some brand new roots, and I was starting my own businesses, 2 of them, renting said motorhome while we were living in a house, and also teaching music lessons from a room from the house that we were renting. Things were going pretty well, and then the rumors of the pandemic started whispering, and when the lockdown situation actually started, both of my businesses completely stopped. The last motorhome rental was literally ending 2 days before this lockdown happened. We were barely able to get a couple of services done to it before everything closed. And so we're largely dependent on hoping for assistance from the government for a period of time. So we ended up having to move into the motorhome so that we could have affordable housing. And so that's why we're in this tiny home situation to which I speak. And so I really decided to devote a lot of my effort towards YouTube, because my daughter now was not able to go to school in person. And so, I wasn't able to leave to go to teach somebody or make arrangements to be teaching somebody. So, I have to sort of be her principal and make sure she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. So I really focused on YouTube and, building up some subscribers and some watch time so I can monetize the channel and start to build little, online money buckets, I call them, right? The Patreon, the YouTube ads, right? The money from my music distributor, etc., etc. There's all these little teeny little places where you can start to build up little fractions of pennies, and and it's really important to be collecting those royalties, As a songwriter, that especially not able to work because of all this, no gigs anywhere on the horizon. As I talked about in a video, big changes to the music industry. Even the big giant names don't know when they're going to be able to go back out on the road and start living like that again. This pandemic has been just brutal for performing artists of all types, especially musicians and in-person music lesson teachers. It's been nuts.
Yeah, totally. It's sucks. Man, I'm so verbose today. So how do you deal with excuses on a daily basis?
Well, if it's something that I'm supposed to be doing, I've noticed that my mind will often try to trick me and try to talk me out of it, right? And if it's something important, something that really matters, there'll be obstacles that'll be put in my way, a lot of times physical as well as mental. And so, there'll be extra challenges to overcome, especially, say I'm working on this new video, right? And if it's, having just the most problems I've ever had and, it's so tricky, right? To get it right, but then that's going to be that video that's, it's going to matter to somebody, or, it's going to make to 1,000 plays or whatever. The important thing is that I'm just trying to take my vision and bring it all the way out and manifest it all the way, right? Not just to stop. And this is something that we talked about in other Flowering Creativities. I remember Kadrian, right? When he said that, you take the idea and you drink from your cup, right? And then your cup refills, because if it's full, it can't fill up anymore. It'll overflow and just waste it, right? So you got to actually drink, use that idea. And then once you do that, then the cup refills and then you drink again, right? I use the analogies. I would write a line, and then that's all I had. And then I go outside and jog a couple laps. And then while I'm jogging, clear my mind. And the next line come in my head, jog in and type it down, go back out and do it again, and keep rinsing and repeating this process until I have the whole song. That excuse is, oh, well, I don't know the rest of it. I just have this one line. But if I actually go inside and I write that line down, right? Then that's inviting the next line.
And do you find that the line comes?
Almost always.
Yeah.
It's like a download, you know? It's like a download in that it's like almost like a link to your higher spiritual self, you could say, that you had this idea before you even came to Earth. And you left yourself clues along the way, right? And whenever you encounter one of those clues, it's like, oh yeah, this thing, right? And then it's like the ideas come. I look at it more of like the flow of ideas. It just, one idea leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next.
How do you manage your stress?
The different forms of meditation really help. In addition to what I talked about for the morning routine, it's very important for me to practice music, because music is the first meditation that I found. Jamming is crucial to me. Jamming by myself, just picking up an instrument and just playing. Jamming with others. That's why I founded the show Jam and Chat, because I was desperate to play with other people, and I had people that I knew that were good, but like they were thousands of miles away, or we were under lockdown and couldn't be in the same place, or both. Exactly. Music is definitely a great way to relieve stress. And when I teach music, I always teach from the lens of, you do not want your music to become a stressor. That's not the point.
Yeah,
right?
You don't want it to become a chore.
Right. It's not something you have to do. It's something you want to do. It's something you love to do. It flows from you. You're not pushing it. You're not making it come out. I do practice Reiki and energy medicine in order to help me with my energy, so that I can feel better and be more balanced and be more grounded. And one of the things that I found is when I'm really, really stressed out, right? It's because I'm out of balance, too much thinking, not enough feeling in the body, not enough grounding to balance it. And so that creates the stress. And so really noticing, right, the stress, and then taking the time to apply whatever toolkit is most convenient at the time. Maybe it's mantra. Maybe I would just sing a mantra in my imagination because I have to be quiet. There's all kinds of different things.
Do you find if you don't manage your stress, it affects your creative flow?
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial to manage stress. Stress is a giant blocker. It throws these giant and anxiety too is another blocker. And it's really important that we stick with our visions, and especially when we're having obstacles come up in the way. It's even more important, because then it's something that we're really meant to do, right? It's like, do you see what I'm saying?
No. I don't. If an obstacle comes in your way, it means you're on the right path, is what you're saying?
The obstacles are the path.
What if there's like 20 obstacles?
Yeah. I'm not saying every idea that you have is something that is necessarily going to always be manifest fully into reality. I'm more referring to, right, if you get an idea when you're in that flow state, right, it's generally something that's it's gonna be meant to be. It's something that you really want to do. That's kind of where I'm going with it. Enjoy and be grateful for every little piece of the idea. Don't be like perfectionist, like, oh my god, I don't have the whole song yet, so it sucks, right? Maybe you'll get the rest of it tomorrow or the next day. Who knows? It's not something to stress over.
Do you feel you choose your passion, or does it choose you?
Well, I definitely have had both experiences. And when I was learning saxophone, I chose the saxophone. I liked it. I liked playing in jazz band. I chose that. And it was really cool. And it was something that I got into. But then when I started discovering the guitar a little bit later, I realized that I loved it as well, but I had never really chosen the guitar. It was set in my lap, and I was kind of good at it, and it just felt natural, and I liked it because I could sing while I was playing it, which I couldn't do when I was playing saxophone.
Now that would be a talent.
Right. Especially to get any kind of enunciation on the lyrics, right? That would be really the tricky part. So I've had both experiences in my life. The passion for jamming, right? That's something that I feel like I chose, because when I was learning music, that was always my favorite. And so a lot of times before I would sit down and play my etudes out of my books and my scales and arpeggios and all the good things that I would work on, I would just pick up my instrument and just play for a couple of minutes first. And that was something just get me in the mood, you know, to whet my appetite, so to speak, and get into the zone. And then I would practice better and I would enjoy it more and I would have more fun. And then another example of passion choosing me is, I think, songwriting. Because, you know, like once I first started songwriting, it just felt so natural to me. It was just like, yeah, this is something I do. You know what I mean? Like from my first song. And I even got to highlight some of the melodies from that first song that I wrote in the rock opera, A Human Experience. It was really cool to have taken over 20 years of songwriting and rolled it up into one, you know, giant work that I'm really proud of.
So the answer is both. It chooses you and you choose it.
Absolutely. It depends on the circumstance. I think that both have happened to me in different situations.
Yeah.
And I'm open to both.
What advice would you offer to someone who is struggling creatively to regain their flow?
Well, in addition to watching every episode of this podcast from episode 1, I mean, that's the entire
shameless plug.
That's the entire purpose of the podcast. I mean, that's why we're doing this. But in addition to that, I would say, you know, the two biggest killers, it was enunciated so well by Kyle Walls last month, are perfectionism and anxiety.
Boy, I got both of those.
Right? So if you feel like, oh, you're not good enough, you know, I suck, oh, I'm just a dabbler, I'm just goofing around, you know, you're limiting yourself, right? I'm not saying that you need to set necessarily higher goals than what you had, more like, you know, just keep working towards those goals, even if it's taking a long time, even if life gets in the way, you're not putting as many minutes into your rehearsal as you would like, or, you know, it's taken 3 years to write that album instead of 1, or whatever it is, you know, to just keep plugging away at it. Because, you know, one thing that my mentor, Randy Lobeck, taught me was that some of us wait for inspiration to strike and then we do our great thing, you know, and then others of us, we just show up and do the work every day. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, you're going to have some days you're going to play better than others. And some songs you're going to write are going to be better than others. But what he was saying was, don't be a perfectionist. Don't limit yourself. Just show up. Just do the work. And, you know, you'll get better and better and better and better. And people will appreciate you more and more and more the more they see you. And the more you're showing your passion and love for what you're doing.
That can fit for a lot of things. Just keep on chugging, keep doing it, do it because you love it. I find in my work that when I give into the flow and I don't worry about achieving a certain thing or worry about, oh, I need to do this a certain way, and I just let it happen, then it's much better. And I think that applies to a lot of things in life. You can just kind of step back and relax about it and not freak out, because I'm a freaker.
And then the other one is anxiety. So we definitely want to realize that, you know, anxiety is something that it can be overcome, but it can also be really, really, really crippling, right? And so that's why we want to really just try to focus and just try to be as present as we can while we're doing our work, right? Because I feel like anxiety goes along with excuses. You know, I feel like they kind of go together, like a mental manifestation and more of a physical manifestation. It's sort of kind of almost like the same kind of energy, if you can feel me.
I don't know if I agree with that.
But at
As
any
someone
rate,
who suffers from anxiety, it's not necessarily an excuse. Like, literally, you're just so freaked out or whatever it is that you cannot you cannot take that next step to complete whatever it is you need to complete, or to take that step of improving something, whatever it happens to be. Like, you know, if I'm in my anxiety, I'm not going to pick up a guitar and start to play, even though that would be extremely helpful and it probably would help calm me down. But when you're in that headspace, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah, it's a big, thick block.
And especially when you put expectations on yourself. Oh, I have to do this or I'm a failure. You know, instead of just being like, okay, well, I'm going to take a break and I'm just going to try to calm down and breathe, and then you can revisit it. So, you know, it depends on your level of anxiety and what the anxiety is about.
Yeah, sometimes we just need to just stop on a particular project, maybe go to a different one, right? Maybe just stop for the day and come back tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Fresh,
Yeah.
you know? So when I say keep going, I don't mean like, you know, like beat your head against the wall when it's not working, you know? Keep going, but in a creative, adaptive way. Like if it's not feeling right in the moment, it's probably not right in that moment, but maybe it'll be right in a different moment. And so you could go to something else to try to keep as much of your flow going as possible.
Okay. That's fair.
But yeah, those are the two big killers. And so we want to make sure that, you know, we're just doing our best to just show up and do the work as much as possible. It's really important to give yourself plenty of time to achieve your goals. That will reduce the anxiety, because then you can, you know, you maybe get ahead of the progress that you're expecting of yourself, and that feels really good. And then maybe you could advance your goals earlier than you thought to your next goals, and that feels really good. So it's kind of about a little bit of planning, but
also,
a lot of forgiveness.
I also think making sure the goals are small
Yeah.
and achievable.
Of course. Exactly. They need to be achievable goals, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for blocks.
You know, like if you're really down in the dumps, your goal for the day might be get up and shower.
I'm sure all of us have had at least one day in the last 9 months that's been like that, right?
Yeah. Pandemic in the middle. If you're in lockdown, are you going to shower every day? Or are you going to stay in your pajamas? You tell me. I know my answer.
Okay, we're getting ready to head over to Patreon for some bonus content. So head over to patreon.com/Matthew's Music Lesson Studio and you can check out this bonus content. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, all the normal YouTube stuff. Please leave your comments down below. I want to know what you think of us, and I'll see you guys next time on Flowering Creativity.